Okay. When infinity, or the concept of infinity, gifted humanity with infinite moves. And so in this episode, as a human being just capable of communicating the idea, I wanted to focus on the notion of how our lives are becoming infinite. And how from a manner of explanation they always have. For me, some feeling that is arising for me that is new is the constant feeling of what would advanced infrastructure look like. What would the more advanced state be? What are humans truly capable of, really? When I say when infinity gifted humanity with infinite moves, I am suggesting the intellect is an opportunity. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to find the music. There we go, I found it. All right. So, today's discussion. What can be said? What can be considered? All right. All right, guys. My song choice is questionable right now. Let me see what I can do. Okay, I think this is a good song choice. So let's begin. Here's the idea. When infinity gifted humanity with infinite moves, it is the suggestion of what is infinity, that it has the capacity to gift anything. And infinity is an access to a perspective. Every human being is starting from their own perception. I use the view that in front of my eyes is the outer realms, behind my eyes is the inner realms. When I close my eyes, I am being conscious of my inner realms. When I open my eyes, my consciousness is orienting to my outer realms. And what is really truly the capacity of human intelligence? It's beyond what's been explained to you. You're an unknown being. Only your ancestors truly knew your potential, but now you're their legacy. What I want to see is the implementation of advanced systems and advanced frameworks for humanity. I want human beings to constantly, in any choice they have in civilization, to be like, yo, there's an advanced choice though. All right, there we go. What else can I be but a bard of our times, a bard of modernity? The first human being in my lineage of ancestry to access cyberspace and leave something behind. To care for the world that was beyond my fathoming because the possibility was accessible. You see, the human endeavor, it is, when I was younger, I thought like, man, life is so complicated, it's so sophisticated, but I didn't realize the idea of something being complicated requires the idea of simplicity. And there have been scholars in the past, some in the likes, who have said something like, yo, man, don't worry about time. Time waits for those who are really doing something. It's all about the ability of our species. Really, what do we have? We're an organism that sees. We see other human beings. So we're like, okay, we two missions: upgrade yourself, upgrade your species, upgrade your galaxy. To not fear dreaming beyond the stars, to not fear technology's sunrise, to not fear all the advanced ways that are accessible. When I say infinity gifted humanity with infinite moves, it means by the nature of our ability to separate ourselves from everything and to call ourselves human, to call ourselves a self in a world. Unlike trees, we're walking in our world. Therefore, we feel separate. So, by the nature of the design of being a creature separate to the world, we feel we are in a world rather than we feel we are the world. When I say infinite moves, it's the notion of this separated self having infinite angles to reconnect towards its collective place. So it's like a concept inside a context, and the concept can connect to the context in any moment, in any way. The idea is not to, in some sense, shackle yourself to symbolism, because the language comes and goes, thoughts come and go. Every day you live, anybody could say anything to you, but at the end of the night you sleep, and when you wake up you consider it a new day, as if yesterday was pushed behind your mind, and now you usher forth into a new day, capturing new moments, right? So the nature of the mind is that in some sense it animates to complete something and then goes back to sleep. We log into the life of our humanity and then we log out at night, right? So this infinity of moves due to the separated self is pretty much a suggestion that in every moment, imagine from where you're standing, there is infinite angles to you. Imagine now that the future generations are going to have no problem with infinity. Do you know what I'm saying? It's only us that have a problem with infinity. The future generations are not going to have a problem with infinity. They're going to love it. They're going to be like, how could you guys not live with an infinite, with the appreciation of the potential that an unknown infinity gives to the known active, to the known activation, let's say. There was a time when I was younger where spirituality was cool. I was like, yo, man, interacting with another dimension, other world. Then I realized it's not about that. It's about the opportunity at hand. It's about the organizational capability of 8 billion evolutionary organisms that somehow miraculously exist in an existence that miraculously exists. So, in an unknown event of this natural realm, of this world that we're in, you find yourself, and I'm just one guy who's like, yo, in this unknown battlefield of a cosmic manifestation and grand happening, grand event. It's like in this mighty battle of celestial forces and evolutionary animation, of individual identity and reconnections through narrativehood. Do you know what I honestly think happened? I think our ancestors suddenly became conscious and they were like, wait a minute, you're telling me I evolved 4.5 billion years just to notice that I will die, just to notice that I'm suffering, just to tell myself complex stories of why my suffering is really my suffering. At some point you wonder, what does it really mean to be free? What is the idea of the free spirit? What is the idea of the kingly or the queenly spirit? What is the idea of the most advanced archetype in your sector of being? For me, it's very poetic. It's as if like the rhythms of advancement are everywhere. They are looking for catchers of the future's vision. People might not believe this, but the future generations are literally like everybody who thinks they have a spirit guide. That's the future self. The future self of humanity. The future is not individual. The past was non-existent and the present was. Believe, like honestly, guys, what can we do? One thing that all ideological systems have in common is that what's going to happen to the human being, and the human being has three sectors that its mind needs to attend. One sector is how do I deal with everything I've journeyed through so far? What do I do with the past? Then obviously there's what do I do with the present? What do I do with the future? So Mr. Within is saying, let's say these are three questions that a human being can ask itself, right? So now, what do we do with the past? One thing we do with the past is we see that we have access to memories of the past, so we have access to an information archive. So the past is a geometrical information archive. Not just geometrical, it's like a film library. But the thing about the past is that the past is past. That means it's done. So the past is something, it's like if you were awkward, if you were good, if you were bad, if you were righteous, if you were wrong, you know, if you were, ignorant, if you had clarity, whatever that happened in the past, it's past and you're now right now I'm speaking to you in the present. It's the same for everybody who's listening to this live stream. So now we're like, what do we do with the present? And this is a very interesting question. The basic answer for what do we do with the present is we attend to our existential opportunity. So it means after 4.5 billion years and whatever journey that the DNA's kind of roamed on this earth and whatnot, it's like we've come to this point where what do we do with the attention that has found a world? Welcome to the real classroom, dear listeners. The real classroom is when you start looking at life as an existential being. What existence is instantaneous being. And it's the nature of a realm where its texture begins to shift from being just a physical significance into being a subjective significance. How can a human being who's just considered an object talk about infinity? Why is it that a part of our minds is trying to live till the end of time, but another part of our body is like, yo man, you guys have a 100-year lifespan ticket? Right? So it's as if it's like, what is this? The mind is acting immortal, the body is acting finite and temporary, the mind is acting infinite and immortal, and the soul is standing timeless, as if ha ha ha, time was an animation of a whim of a being beyond. So where mankind is a very interesting position. What we really have and the greatest strength is through our simplicity, our reconnectivity towards a global interconnectivity, a new arrival of a new display of a new idea of the human being. We have reached that point in history where Mr. Within is saying, hey, the egos of humanity are doing weird stuff on the planet. There's wars going on. There's effed up stuff going on. All of this is happening based on how we're acknowledging what human is. But what is the human? The human is a rare opportunity. Do you know this goes to not just the leaders and everything? And sometimes when I give these talks, you know what it is? It's as if I'm shouting at the cosmos before I am no longer here. Do you see? It's like the last dance. It's as if some people talk to an audience and some people talk as if eternity is their audience. This is what was here on earth now. Do you see how precious your attention and mind is? When you truly honor it. Now, the mind is something very unique. This is something where at first I thought, nah, man, I don't need any system to give me honor. I'll just live as an honorable individual. But at some point you see that you cannot rely on yourself. There's shortcomings and, you know, there's upcomings, I guess. And I don't know. There's like, I don't know, tall comings. I don't know, like this language. Language sometimes to me feels like a luggage I'm opening and then throwing, you know? It's like, yo, this isn't my luggage. You know, you throw everybody's luggage on the floor. And they're like, what do you do, sir? And you're like, I talk about advancement. Guys, honestly, where I'm going with this is very like something like this, okay? There was something about the previous song that I gotta listen to it again. So I want to teach something that I don't know if I've truly learned. Honestly, I'll tell you this. I'm a human being, okay, and I'm representing the human experience, and I have an inner realms, and my inner realms is visual, and I've experienced variations and probabilities. So in the way I opened up this lecture was, I'm like, okay, what is the past? So we realize the past is like an information archive. It's also something that's past, so our attention is in the present. Now when we come to the present, we wonder, what do we do? I'm saying there's dimensions to attend. So we have to attend the dimensions of the body. You have to like physically survive, right? Then there's the dimensions of the mind. You have to psychologically survive, right? Then you have to, in some sense, as you survive psychologically, you emotionally survive, right? And eventually you reach a point where you have self-actualized, where it's as if the freedom of your free will is aligned to the greater potentials of your own of the system you're moving in. You see, there's some things in this life that are forbidden. Like certain imagery on this planet is forbidden. But there's some things that are not forbidden. And what's not forbidden is the ability to wonder and become fascinated with how incredible the future can be. The advancement principle that Mr. Within brought was the idea that in any moment there could be someone doing the same thing you're doing in a more advanced way. So the advanced possibility always exists. The infinite genius moves are there. You know, honestly, it's not just infinite moves. It should be infinite genius moves. How do I correct this? I'll correct it at the end. When infinity gifted humanity with infinite genius moves. When the heart of a species roared through the minds of the future generations, when suddenly humanity cared for the excellence of its performance in a cosmos. Like, what if we have an audience? What if right now advanced civilizations are watching us? What if advanced beings are watching us? What if an almighty true power, original source God is watching us? Which is an incredible idea. Which is an idea that we're standing in the presence of the greatest energy in the greatest world. The mightiest of mightiest have called into manifestation, and you have arrived, as we have all. When I say infinite genius moves, honestly, the idea came from chess. And let me explain. I'm not like a chess master or anything, but I have an ability, like I cultivated an ability at least towards that path, right? And what that ability was an ability that when you find a good move, you relax and you try to find another good move, then you relax and you keep finding angles to the same moment, that the moment can happen in different ways. And at some point, you realize that the effort you have as a human being surpasses the idea of a human being. That's the secret behind the mind that thinks it's an idea. Still. So these infinite genius moves, all that I can say is one human being to another human being to other human beings is this. So your outer realms is limited, and this is kind of cool. So our in front of our eyes, we find ourselves in an existential world, and this world has physical laws. There's literally gravity, and it has also cultural laws. It also has social laws. You know, some of those social laws are invisible even, right? There's even political laws, you know, there's even universal categorizations of reality. So really what's going on is, you got to understand, everybody, there is no such thing as smart or stupid people, right? There is literally people who realize, whoa, we're on a rock, and we started storytelling on it as a species, and true intelligence seems to be not an ignorance of the simulation, but a being that has mastered the simulation. They're like, why am I still here then, right? So there's something to be done. And so what seems to be done is the understanding that once and all individuals have attained an individual advancement, that individual advancement is like a bunch of drops getting closer and closer together, and they suddenly become a river of movement. That river is the legacy of the human species. The legacy of the human species is surpassing the archetypes that the past is defining you before the future can. Who says your future potential can be your identity? What does that mean? That means when you look at yourself in the mirror, that's just you in this moment, in this time, in this like incident, in this instant. But when you really look at your eyes, you realize something's going to be watching your reanimation every day. So the infinitude of that is literally in angles of perception. When you suddenly realize, no way, I was looking at life in a certain way. Now there's so many ways to look at life. There's ways that children are going to be born on the planet. They're going to look at life in a way that none of us are going to even understand. And they're going to invent or discover something new. How do you think it happens? Right? What do I mean? I mean we're on a rock in the middle of nowhere. The species reacted to the meaninglessness, and out of fear and panic started storytelling. People worshipped objects, then they worshipped subjects, and now they worshipped the people, and then after people they worshipped what was beyond people. And when they reached that point where they worshipped what was beyond people, it was as if the human attention had freed itself from the boundary of a past defining it. It was as if it was a heavenly gift that man could be himself in a world that the past had chained him. Do you know what that means? When I see nature videos, do you know how effed up that shit is? Do you know how effed up it is to look at monkeys and apes and think that we evolved from it? But it kind of makes sense, right? When you see like the kind of jealousy and greed that like chimps and apes have, you can kind of tell like humanity has an influence. But what I think is as what is happening is that it's like, just like we consider human sight to be like a certain range of the electromagnetic spectrum. Imagine there's this really large space, and we're just looking outside it from a corner of a door, like seeing a little bit of it. So that's what human sight is. It's a little access to a large spectrum. That means there could be so many ways that we're being a being right now that we just haven't discovered how we can see ourselves that way. The idea of the soul was just the door over the sign pointing to that. That means imagine you're someone, you're like, yo, man, all these ideological systems that promote themselves, I don't like any ideological systems anymore. Then the person's going to be left with, okay, if you don't like any ideological systems, then be in the present and just watch your signs. Just look at how the world happens. What infinity means. What infinity means is that you look at how finite you are. You look at your own self and you realize, wow, there's going to come a day where I'm not going to wake up and just look at myself first person point of view, to see my hands in front of my eyes and then to see a world that I could have gotten involved with, right? So it's honestly about how you serve reality. The poet Tagore had once said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. The glorification of the human species is not being done out of greed or out of selfishness. It is being done out of the greatest expectation of the greatest potential of the human species. It's as if we were designed by the greatest, we must perform in the greatest. And what is the greatest? It is not just an intellectual, ideological domain. It's kind of like feeling your world and walking correctly with it. So when I say infinite genius moves, that means think of it this way. Any moment you're like, let's say your mindset is bothering you, you just have to ask yourself, man, I'm sad right now, but let me just look at my life. Let me see, out of all the things that are happening, is there a reason, for example, to be sad? I'm just trying to train the mind of the species to be capable to probabilize what else the present can be. So because you're left in the present and you have the informational archive of the past giving meaning to the present, you also have the choice to stop the past giving meaning to the present and allowing the present to rediscover its future life, right? And that seems to be healthy. So it's as if imagine, let's say you're someone, whoever you are, let's say there's a spectrum of people. So let's say you're someone who's done something very bad. Let's say you're someone who's done something good, and there's all the spectrum in between this. You're someone. Your approach would be is that you would look at your past, you would look at the life you've lived so far, and you would for a moment just look at the sky and in some sense thank the truth of your moment. That this has been your journey so far. And if you can become grateful of your past, whatever it has been, and it might be impossible, but you have to realize that if you truly change, you can. And so you, in some sense, honorably, as if like a general saluting the fallen comrades of all the types of selves it was in its yesterdays, in yesterday's battles. And once you have honored and saluted the past, it can rest in peace, and then you're now left with your own present self. And your present self is access to a world of possibility. So it's not just your own mind extracting meaning from reality. Reality is also marketing its meaning to you. Do you know? I pretty much realized, I think subconsciously early on, that hey man, the internet is so artificial. Why not just be a real person here? Why not show the cyber realm that humans were graceful beings, that they cared for the world, that the voice of one was from, because the voice was of one came from the heartbeat of many. And advanced civilization is the greatest strategy. It is the greatest idea in the outer realms. In the inner realms, the greatest idea is God. And it's incredible because it means it's an advanced civilization under advanced original surveillance. So infinity is something that's bizarre now, but I predict give it like maybe like give it like 100 years, and children are gonna come to their parents and they're gonna have a complete different analogy and view on what self means. That means just like how we're comfortable being one sense of self, in the children, parents are going to actually harness the multidimensionality of the child's mind at an early age. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I could totally visualize this. In the future, the parents going to be like, wait a minute, all the teachers in the school told the kids not to daydream, but those teachers didn't realize that ability of the mind of the kid to imagine is what's going to help it problem solve in the future. Right? So, in some sense, the cultivation of the ability of children to envision reality in their inner realms. We as human beings just don't acknowledge the inner realms, and they're like, yo, the kid's like, Mom, Dad, I imagined an interstellar city and I'm 5 years old. What are you guys gonna do about that? And the parents are like, oh, kiddo, you were dreaming. And the kid's like, no, I wasn't. It's like, oh, yeah, you were. You were daydreaming. Now relax and go play soccer. Right? And the kid's like, but I don't know. My mind fathomed an extremely superior abstract geometrical form, and you just want me to forget it. And the parent's like, yeah, kid, I don't know how to deal with this archetype. You know? If I have kids in the future and they anger me, I'm just gonna go start reading a book, and they're gonna be like, "What book are you reading?" I'm like, "How to be a better father." No, I'm joking. Honestly, guys, where I'm going with this is I'm saying it in front of your eyes, your outer realm, your mind has a linearity it has to abide by and conditions of survival. But I'm also telling you that behind your eyes, you have access to your own private art studio. See, I'm a guy who I don't have time to have people like follow me. Do you know what I'm saying? All I'm doing is like creating some sort of research lab, right? Like global research community or something, right? And the whole idea is that instead of focusing on the outcome, I thought of focusing on the method. So what I'm trying to say is that in front of your eyes, you may be reality is solid, but behind your eyes is liquid. Behind your eyes, you can be a being that is just a presence of attention. You can also be a being that is a conceptual agent, that's moving your body. So it depends on how you want to navigate your reality. What I've realized is that I tend to organize my life around principles that represent the greatest values. So my attempt is, for example, the one principle my mind just completely understood was that in complete peace, like all those people who are like, let's create a peaceful world. A lot of us think like boring utopia, that's bullshit, but in actuality, what a peaceful world is a world graceful enough, gentle enough for the genius possibilities and ideas of humanity to step out of 8 billion human minds and then circulate in a coliseum where the greatest ideas are constantly, updating all of us. Human beings do not have to fear machines. We just have to realize that instead of putting a chip in our brain, we need to create a system of brain waves where we go sit in like a fancy couch, like how Morpheus sat on a couch on the Matrix, like that kind of couch. And it's like there's these antennas or something above your head, and it's like you don't have to plug anything in your brain, just like it, like brain waves kind of like take you into like cyberspace or something. The idea is that the human species is going to become sensitive to its mind. I'm just someone who's become sensitive to his mind earlier. That's it. Right? Everything I'm saying, everything I'm doing, we all have the potential for. The idea is so much bigger than the individual that you at some point are like, yo, man, how can I care for who am I? When, like, how can I care for my own legacy when my species has a destiny? And its destiny is in the presence of the Almighty, in the greatest original force. That means the reason I became truly religious, I'll tell you why. Because I realized that there are, just think as if the world is a place that it has an administrator, then there's moderators, then there's members. Okay, we human souls are imagined like members. Imagine higher archetypes like angels, fallen angels, demigods, deities, all of these symbolism. They're like moderating figures. Okay, right? But when you realize the idea of God is the original administrator. That means those people who truly become, they God becomes a part of their life. That means that it's no longer their mind in how an influential factor alone in how the world moves. It's as if how the world happens is communicating to the person who's considering that the administrator has always been here. The administrators watching how the members are just accepting the moderators, or they're actually wondering, okay, what is the true administration of my manifestation of my attention in a world at all? In the presence of what greatness do I stand, and what greatness shall my species achieve? What great flights ahead are there? Right? And in some sense, how advanced do we truly want to be? Because right now what human beings are doing is that a lot of their time is going in transport. Do you know the first, like, if there was a global leader, it's like that global leader would be like, guys, why are we fighting? We should just kind of unite our technological prowess and try to, in some sense, advance civilization quickly. Do you know? And how do we advance civilization? We have to have 8 billion advanced beings. So it's like the government was like, Mr. Within, how do I, like, imagine like there was like some global governing power. I'm saying imagination of humanity. Something I speak about in my sci-fi, which literally means that all nations suddenly became a sub-nation of a nation of humanity, which considers that any form that is biological human organism belongs to the nation of humanity, and they're part of the advanced human civilization. That means even if an alien arrives on Earth and looks human, right? Even if an android looks human, or whatever, like hologram, cyber entity looks human, there comes a consideration where we're like, it doesn't matter. You have honored the human archetype's legacy and continuity into the beyond. Therefore, you can be a citizen of Earth. The idea is, if we are intelligent beings, we create something that doesn't require us to destroy ourselves. Do you know what feeling it is to feel that like a species is advancing? Imagine, I'll give you an example. This is going to be a cool idea. Imagine right now, we look at people on Earth and we're like, these people aren't advanced. And truly right now in 2024, we're not as advanced as we could be. But imagine right now that we were right now of every person that was behaving, every person in a coffee shop, every person crying, laughing, every person in civilization. Imagine right now they were all the most advanced beings. Just for a second, imagine every conscious organism is the most advanced being, and they're just acting. This is their act. This is how they're animating the spirit of the moment. You'll suddenly see something so fascinating. You suddenly see that people are not people. Just like how you're not just your body, because your body is in the sphere of your awareness is the presence of your mind. So even though the brain is inside your body, but what the brain act, the way the brain animates the whole thing, that is our intelligence, feels as if we know what's going on outside of our body, right? It's like we're inside a car and we know exactly how it feels to be outside the car. How's that possible? It means the driver can leave the vehicle, right? It means consciousness is not just bound to the biological organism. The biological organism is in the sphere of, let's say, conscious intelligence or something. But of course, I don't want to go towards metaphysics. I just want to, pilot towards the idea of the advancement of civilization and how infinite chess moves can potentially exist in your inner realms, because the inner realms has a freedom that is not restricted to the laws of what's in front of your eyes. That means in front of my eyes, there is no system in my car that can make it fly. But I can close my eyes and imagine like I press a button in this car and it suddenly goes 100 meters into the air. Or it goes a kilometer in the air, and I'm like, finally, I can breathe. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, in the future, all the companies you see are going to become spaceship companies. Everything's going to become a spaceship. Cars are going to become a spaceship. Motorcycles are going to become a spaceship. Homes are going to become a spaceship. Apartments are going to become spaceships. Cities are going to become spaceships. Why? Because we're like, yo, man, we can just fly our real estate. So behind your eyes, the car can fly. In front of your eyes, the car cannot fly. So behind your eyes, there's infinite chess moves. In front of your eyes, there is, the finite game of that you're choosing to live. Where is your attention going? What sense of honor do you have as a being? What do you truly honor? There some wise guy had said back in the day that you got to keep one thing absolute, one factor absolute throughout the day. For religious people, for example, it is God, right? For people who are like, let's say secular, but let's say in love, it's like their partner. There's something that people live for. Now, I'm saying this whole time there should have been another layer, that every person who ever felt alone should have also had access and felt like, wait a minute, there's an advanced civilization, and in an advanced civilization, the advanced civilization's like, you feel alone, you feel depressed, you feel disconnected from your own life and world. Well, let me tell you something, kid. There's an advancement of the whole world waiting for everybody. The real work is beyond our individual joy. It's how we serve the whole system, and then we celebrate it with everybody, right? When you have that mindset, something changes. You realize you have to love your species into advancement. What's the other option? Hate. It's like you can't hate someone into loving, right? Like that shit's kind of like even bizarre, even if that happens, right? Like because the idea is that you cannot destroy something and act creative, you know what I mean? In honor of the advancement of civilization, the concept of infinity entering the mind of the human being suggested that there was a way to look at life that was endless, and also its geometrical form and categorization would be endless. So it means that an infinite influence of the idea of infinity on the psyche of man was an ability for man to consider that what would infinite lives at the same time be? What would be all the ways that we can be in the moment that we are not yet? And why is a human being even saying this on this earth? Because human beings have repeated the same patterns too long. Do you understand? Like, it's been too long. The same shit's been happening. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. And now we're like, wait a minute. Are we so used to the past that we are not allowing the present to experience a new future? Because that's effed up. I'm telling you, I think one thing that truly aligns the heart of humanity, The heart of the human being is just to close your eyes for a moment and just try to find a moment that you can just trust your moment, and just try to feel for a moment that all the people and all the unborn children of the future generations, all the children who are going to be born in the future and all the people who are going to be born in the future, imagine they are watching you. All the geniuses, all the inventors, all the good and evil beings, whatever. Imagine everybody that will be born in the future is watching you right now. Feel the weight. Feel the burden that you being in the frontiers of conscious manifestation has. And as you serve, the world smiles at itself. So it smiles at itself again. An advanced civilization is the future's birthright. Thank you for listening. And join Mr. Within's research lab. The idea is to contribute vision to a collective effort of redesigning the whole thing, I guess. Blessings, guys. And honestly, my understanding of infinity is not like I'm not acting like an infinite being here. I just realized that an idea has a different sense of experience in time compared to something that is not an idea. Okay? So the mysteries of the world and the great mountains shaped like question marks, they're waiting for us to climb them. Thank you for listening. Climb your future destiny.